All right, welcome back, everyone. We're going to listen to the last live presentation for the day, and we'll be done at the conclusion of this presentation. As I mentioned, we did record a very interesting interview with Daniel Street. We will send that to you. I recommend you listen to it. I think you'll really like it. I think you'll get some great information from it, and that's part of the program. We just deliver that as a recorded interview rather than a live session. Join us today. So anyway, our next session is Lies Democrats Tell. Speaking on this issue is John Seiler, who I introduced before. John Seiler was in the Army for many years and has been a writer for many years as well. He's opinion pieces here in multiple publications. So John, thanks for coming back on, and feel free to tell us about some of the lies Democrats tell.
Dave, for having me back on, and I really appreciate it. I'm recording here from, or broadcasting from Irvine, California. Really beautiful day out. And as I mentioned earlier today, if we get Kamala Harris, you're going to get California, only without the great weather. You're going to have your 10 below zero, like I grew up with in Michigan, but you're going to have our horrible politics, because Kamala Harris is very much a California politician, and you've seen what Gavin Newsom has done out here with this, all kinds of gun control regulations on housing that have really driven up the price. They keep chipping away and make things a little bit better, but the overall thing is just a disaster. So many incredible regulations on it, but that's another subject for another day. So I thought we'd start out with the lies of Joe Biden, and then we can work on to Kamala Harris eventually. And I knew a guy who was he went to school with Joe Biden at Syracuse, and he said even back then in the mid '60s, Joe was saying, "I'm going to be president someday." So that one was not a lie, unfortunately. But when I was in Washington D.C. in the 1980s for 5 years, in the mid 1980s, at the Washington Times and other publications, even the Democrats I knew would say Joe Biden's just a big liar. He's a boaster. Everybody laughs at him, and he's stupid. So one of the things about it is that we talk about him as we talked about him earlier this morning about borking, and there's one. He was the head of the Judiciary Committee. Joe Biden was back in the mid 1980s, and and this was the hearing of Robert Bork, who was a great jurist at the time, and he went before the committee and wanted to have a nice debate, like a law school kind of debate. And this is an article about Joe, about what happened back then, from where was it? Time Magazine, or no, it's from the Hill. From the Hill, they went over what Biden says, and here's what Biden was lecturing Bork. "We will retreat from our tradition of progress, or we will move forward, continuing to expand and develop the rights of individuals." And Bork said, here's what Bork said: "If a judge abandons intentions in his guide, there is no law available to him, and he begins to legislate a social agenda for the American people," which is exactly what we've had on Roe v. Wade and so many other things. And Biden, in his memoirs later on, portrayed Bork as a wild-eyed Puritan prepared to break down bedroom doors. So this was just a total fiasco by Joe Biden. And then we had this is really interesting right here. In 1988, Joe Biden ran briefly for president, and he ended up dropping out because he had quoted Neil Kinnock. Kinnock was a socialist guy who was running for prime minister in England against Margaret Thatcher, the great Margaret Thatcher. And I remember that election well. And Kinnock, it was the Labor Party, of course. Since then, the Labor Party has become kind of like a Clintonized thing where they lie about everything. But back then, they were still trying to, give you the 100% socialism. But and here we go. A pollster at the time said, this is in 1988, the rep against Biden is that he is a candidate of style, not substance. And the kleptomania was particularly damaging to Biden since it underscored the prior concerns that he was a shallow vessel for other people's ideas. Yeah, here. And let's see. Oh, and this is kind of interesting. What turned up then about Biden was during his first months at Syracuse University Law School in 1965, Biden failed the course because he wrote a paper that used 5 pages from a published law review article without quotation marks or proper footnote. And then the final bill for his campaign, Newsweek, which was a liberal paper, magazine, that unearthed C-SPAN footage of Biden rattling off his academic accomplishments, including saying that he graduated in the top half of his law school when in fact he ranked 76 out of 85. That's the bottom 10%. So, and one of the things we can go on is next is the business schemes of Joe Biden and his family. We've all heard a lot about that. And Joe Biden was saying that here we go. Joe Biden, when he's running for president against President Trump, he said, first of all, I have never discussed with my son or my brother or anyone else anything having to do with their businesses, period. What I will do is the same thing we did in our administration. There will be an absolute wall between the personal and private and the government. There wasn't any hint of scandal at all when we were there, and I will impose the same kind of strict rules. That is why I've never talk with my son or my brother or anyone else in the distant family about their business interests, period. And this is from an investigation by the House Oversight Committee. And here we go. We get to all kinds of stuff about this. And here's the fact that it was revealed by the committee. Evidence reveals then Vice President Biden spoke, dined, and had coffee with Hunter Biden and his foreign business associates. The FBI's recorded interview with Rob Walker, Biden family associate, also reveals Joe Biden attended a meeting about a Chinese entity. Additionally, Hunter Biden alleged his father was in the room when he demanded payment from a CEFC associate. Then Vice President Biden dined with corrupt oligarchs who funneled millions to Hunter Biden. And they have quotes here from Rob Walker from his testimony to the FBI, just saying, we talked about it before the break, and he says, sure, Kenez Rashikov, Kareem Masimov, Valerie Vitorina, possibly Yuri, Hunter Biden, Joe Biden, and possibly Eric Schwerin were at these business meetings. And it shows Biden is just totally corrupt, just tells lies all the time. And now we can get for something that we've probably all heard about, but it's worth bringing up again. This is called the Fine People hoax. And this finally, I'm reading here from Snopes. This is a very liberal source. They didn't do anything on this for a long time. But finally, in June this year, they came out and said, no, Trump did not call neo-Nazis and white supremacists very, very fine people. If you remember when Joe Biden announced his candidacy back in 2019, he said it was because of this fine people thing that he was running for president. He's mentioned it many times, many times. He did earlier this year in his State of the Union address, or rather in his address when he was leaving the campaign, when he said he was not going to run for president anymore. And Kamala Harris used it in the recent debate last month with President Trump. So it's good to bring up that even the liberal Snopes fact-checking site, it comes up about this. This was in Charlottesville on August 15, 2017. There was a rally, 2 rallies. One was about the statue of Robert E. Lee, which was being taken down, and there were some local people that said, yeah, this is great, we're going to take down the statue. And the other people were like Southerners that said, no, this is our heritage. Robert E. Lee is our favorite general, so don't take it down. And it was all peaceful, and that's what Trump said. There were fine people on both sides. But at the other time, there were these white nationalists who had a separate, totally separate, another part of the park, another rally. And they had, at one time, they had these tiki torch marks at night, and they were, had Nazi flags, Ku Klux Klan, that kind of thing. And that was not what Trump was referring to. In fact, I give the quote here. This is from the Snopes report, not from anywhere else. Here's what Trump says. And the first part, he said you had people that were very fine people on both sides of the statue. But later on, he says, you're changing history, you're changing culture, and you had people, he said, you had people, and I'm not talking about the neo-Nazis and the white nationalists, because they should be condemned totally. But you had many people in that group, and other than the neo-Nazis and the white nationalists, okay. That was the very same thing that he's talking about, the very fine people. And they keep repeating this, repeating this, and repeating this. It is a total lie all the time. The worst one told about Trump. And I got something here that's interesting. I'll show you. Richard Spencer was one of the white nationalists who organized the bad rally. And on July 16 this year, he says, I'm voting for Joe Biden, dementia and all. Nomination of J.D. Vance had reminded me what the GOP really is. There we go. You can look it up. It's on Twitter, or what it calls X now. And on July 29, Spencer tweeted, I'm warming up to Kamala. I'm kind of low tech there, so you can see a picture of her. His tweet showed a kind of picture of her with like a record cover. Oh, Depeche Mode, rock group. Anyway, so that's the real truth of it. Not that we should attach too much to whatever Richard Spencer says nowadays, but this is the lie they tell over and over and over again. So let's just talk about a couple things about Joe Biden's presidency. He keeps talking about how he reduced the national debt significantly. This is from CNN, where he says that, but of course the national debt really has gone up $8 trillion under him, about $2 trillion a year. This year it's going up another $2 trillion. It's $35 trillion now, which is, I mean, it's an unbelievable amount. It's like 120% of the of GDP, of the whole national. It's more than the national product. It's like, and it's like if you had 122, supposing your credit card debt was 122% of your income, it would be close to bankruptcy. That's what the country is because of Joe Biden, and there's no end to this. And let's see what else we have here. That was a good one. And let's talk a little bit more about Joe Biden, about the inflation numbers. We all know it went way up to above 8%, and it's come down since then, supposedly, according to the official figures. But there's a really good site called Shadow Stats. It's Shadow Stats, and they have the real inflation numbers. Because in 30 years ago, when Bill Clinton was running for re-election, he changed how they calculate the statistics for inflation. So it's the numbers nowadays are about half of what they are. Were back then. It was a totally crooked thing Clinton did, and you talk about lies Democrats tell. There you go. He was running against Bob Dole a couple years later in '96. So Bill Clinton changed it and made it less. And one of the things it did was reduce the amount of payments going to Social Security. So it could be easier to balance the budget, but it was a trick against seniors. I'm a senior myself, so making less than they allowed then, even though Social Security needs to be reformed somehow. But here's I'll show you this right here. They're saying now it's only around 3% inflation, something like that, but it's really double that, around 6%. This is again a little low tech right here. You can see that. You can go to this site, and it shows it's double what they're telling us. It's called shadowstats.com is where you can go to find that out. So this is just all these lies about Biden and Democrats year after year after year. And then we're going to talk to this one we had over here. So I'll get some more. We're going to turn to Kamala Harris now. Let's see. Okay, let's talk about Kamala Harris a little bit right here. And I'm in California now, and Kamala Harris was She was the district attorney in San Francisco. She got that position because she was the paramour of Willie Brown. So let's talk a little bit about Willie Brown. You might have seen him on TV because he's 90 years old now. She was his girlfriend back when he was still married. This is 30 years ago. But Willie Brown was a very, very powerful Californian. After the governor, he's the most powerful Californian until term limits forced him out of the assembly. He was the speaker of the assembly, and to give him his due, he was always considered very straightforward about his political role. If he made a deal with Republicans, he kept it, unlike some other Democrats. But that's how she got her job as district attorney, and then she ran for attorney general in California and got that, and then she ran in 2016 for California Senate. And we interviewed her at the Orange County Register. And the interesting thing is, during the interview, it was on a speakerphone in the middle of a desk. We had it there in our building at the Orange County Register, which everybody's working virtual now, like I am now. But it was interesting because she really never answered the questions. It was all this word salad stuff, and she would take a couple of seconds to answer it. And I thought, what's going on here? Is she reading from a briefing book? Or is she reading from a computer screen? Because this was just voice interview. Somebody in another room putting this on a computer screen, but now that we know her better, we know that's just the way she is. And if you look at California, she's boasting she's from California and it's such a great state. And this whole state is just a big lie. We have, everybody's seen the pictures of the massive homelessness. The rents are incredible here. A 2-bedroom little apartment is $3,000. In Orange County, where I live, the average house now is close to $1 million for one house. And it didn't used to be this way. When I came to California in 1987, we had Republican President Ronald Reagan, Republican Governor George McMahon, he's very good, and we had Republican Senator Pete Wilson, and there was close to a majority in the California Assembly and Senate. Well, the Democrats ran it. A couple years later, the Republicans took over the Assembly. But since then, for 20 years now, at least or around 20 years now, the Democrats have absolutely run everything. And they run the state into the ground. So anything they boast about California is total lies. The middle class pays 10.4% income tax for California, if you can believe that. That's a few states, even millionaires don't pay that in most states. So I just wanted to bring that up about how Kamala has been part of this disaster in California. California is a total Democrat lie. And I know so many people are leaving this state. You probably know somebody that came from California, wherever you live in. Some of my friends now are moving to Tennessee, and other ones are headed out there. Texas, Florida, Republican states, they have no state income tax and pretty good governance under Republican governors. So, by the way, another one who's wrecked California was Schwarzenegger, who's a Republican, the last Republican we'll probably ever have for 1,000 years. But for 2 years, he was pretty good, but then he flipped out, and his wife, Maria Shriver Kennedy, convinced him to become a liberal Democrat, and then they got divorced later, whatever. But so let's switch over to a couple of things from Kamala. And one is from the debate. She mentioned this thing that Democrats, you hear them say this over and over again. I watched most of the Democratic National Convention because my friends said, you must be crazy. And no, I actually love watching all that stuff. And they talked about this Project 2025, over and over and over again, Project 2025, from the Heritage Foundation. It's a 900-page book about what they're going to do. And I wrote a column on this for the Orange County Register at the time, about, what was it, 2 months ago? So you can look it up if you want to. And this is just a joke by them because I met with the head of the Heritage Foundation when they were doing one of these in 1988, I think it was. Ed Fulner, he's he's kind of the president emeritus, a great guy. And he came out and they were doing this. They do one of these almost every year for the new president. So it's nothing new. And it has all these kind of boilerplate Republicans things in it. Some are great, some are so. And Trump himself has said he never's read it and he's not going to read it because he doesn't want to be associated with it. And they keep saying that it's a lot like his stuff. Well, some of it is it, but he has his own agenda. And another thing is that this thing was written almost 2 years ago. It's an old thing that's pretty old. And so this is just this total lie that they tell about it. They hold, there was this woman at the convention. She lied about the whole thing. She held up this because they had cut out the pages and put it up in a big book. So it made it look really, really big, it's big Project 2025. And it's going to take care of your abortion rights and all that stuff. And it's going to turn America into a tyranny. So it's a bunch of lies. It's kind of some old stuff from the Heritage Foundation they cobbled together. And like I said, a lot of it's pretty good, but some of it isn't. And take away what you will about it. So let's see some more things here. Okay, this is a good one that came up at the debate with Harris about fracking. Because Trump is big about drill, baby, drill. We're going to frack everywhere, Pennsylvania, Montana, where they can do it in California, actually. But another crazy thing about this state is they're almost totally banning drilling for oil here. And then our governor lies about it, blames it on the oil companies, even though oil is cheaper in every other state here. Ours is at least $1 or $2 higher for gasoline than in other states. They're just gouging us and destroying us. So Harris at the debate lied about it. She said she never was actually against fracking when she was, and now because Pennsylvania, of course, is one of the top battleground states. She needs to win Pennsylvania, and a lot of oil drillers there. And the funny thing about that is though, she could have just said, we've checked things out since then, and we're still gonna move away from fracking, and we're gonna do it eventually. But in the meantime, we need to power our economy. We need people to have electricity. So we're gonna delay it a little bit. But instead, she just said no. She just lied about it. I didn't say that. So that was one of her big lies. And let's see. And another one is she talked about abortion. Of course, she's always saying if Donald Trump gets the chance, he will sign a national abortion ban, and these horrific realities will multiply about not having reproductive freedom. And in my discussion with Linda Denham this morning, we talked a fair amount about the Roe v. Wade, about how it was a main catalyst in destroying the rule of law in America, or badly damaging it. And then Roe v. Wade finally was gotten rid of 2 years ago by the Supreme Court. And how the left they just went crazy about it. They still are. Even though Trump has always been right. This is a state issue, and he never says he will sign a national abortion ban. He said he's not going to. Personally, I would favor such a thing, but that's not going to happen. I've been a pro-lifer my whole life, and the pro-lifers, for a long time, they were trying to get a national abortion ban through the Supreme Court or something. Finally realized that's not going to happen. About 30 years ago, they started working at the state level, and then Trump made a deal with the pro-lifers. If they elected him, he would have 3 great Supreme Court justices. So this, in the end, really is not just about abortion like they're lying. It's the left hates the Supreme Court the way it is. They want to get rid of it. They want to make it a bunch of crazy liberals, or reduce the power of the Supreme Court because it's conservative now. And then take away our gun rights, take away free speech. They're always attacking free speech, which is really crazy. The left used to be the absolutists on free speech. Now they're in favor of it. They had this in California. We had a couple bills on controlling internet free speech signed by Governor Gavin Newsom. That's what they want to go national, so that even a production like this, Davos in the desert, they would limit it. They would say, you're having bad speech here. Don't do that anymore. It's misinformation or disinformation. They want to control all of us. They're such liars about that. So getting to abortion again, Trump never said that. He said he wants the states to decide it, which is the way it ought to be. And if that's where the fights ought to be for that. So let's see what else we have here. This was a good one. When Bernie Sanders was on Meet the Press, and they asked him actually about all the flip-flops that Kamala was doing on all the policy issues, because, you know, Bernie's a hardcore left-winger. He's a real socialist. He doesn't try to hide it. And he said, no, I don't think she's abandoning her ideals. I think she's trying to be pragmatic and do what she thinks is right in order to win the election. So all of her statements are just about winning the election. All of her lies, it's just about faking everything. And then we have one here about Harris. And, you know, another thing is they're saying that she was not the border czar. And the BBC had a good thing on this, because Biden appointed her to have a lot of authority over the border. And then people just called her border czar. When you, in America, when you say somebody's a czar, you don't mean the person's really a czar like Russia used to have, you know, like Tsar Nicholas II or somebody. It just means they have a lot of authority over them, something, because you might remember Mike Pence, when he was vice president and the whole COVID thing hit, they made him the COVID czar. He was in charge of the policy for that, and he sat over some committees, did that kind of thing. And the same thing with Harris. She's the border czar, and the BBC admitted that that she actually had a great deal of authority over it. This is, when was it? In August, and she really she was supposed to coordinate with these Latin American countries to have them limited. Like, you might remember, Trump did that. He told the president of Mexico, he said, yeah, you better start controlling this, and he did. That's what you're supposed to do. So that was another lie. And what's the other thing here? So that's what I have for all these lies. And if there's any questions or anything David wants to add about it, I think just looking over the years, the lies by the Democrats have become even bigger. And I've been watching politics since the late 1960s when I was a kid. And, you know, they used to shade the truth. Often politicians do that. Republicans do it as well. But now it's just a full court press that seize power and then just destroy the country.
Yeah, very good. Thank you, John. Made a lot of interesting points and reminded us of a lot of the lies that come out of the Biden-Harris administration. So thank you for your work on that segment. Really appreciate that. Yeah, my 2 cents worth is there's all kinds of lies. We could probably have a whole day where we go around the table and everybody could tell a different lie that the Democrats have told recently. In my mind, there's so many lies you can start to categorize. You know, so there are repulsive lies, like alleging that Trump said the military suckers and losers. That's just a repulsive lie. There's hypocritical lies. You know, like Trump would impose a national sales tax. He never suggested a national sales tax. You know, what they're trying to refer to is he would have some duties imposed on goods that are brought into this country by countries that use slave labor, or, you know, or price gouging. They're dumping their products on our shores. But that's been something that Trump implemented in his first administration, and that the Biden administration continued on with. So that's a hypocritical lie. There's the insult to our intelligence lies, like price of food has only gone up 20% in the last 4 years. Maybe they mean 20% a year. I mean, that might be right, but it's about double what it was, and that's probably not even including the shrinkflation, the fact that you're getting less food when you buy a package of food. And then there's the lies that are injected into different government agencies, like crime statistics. You have some big cities that they don't provide their crime statistics, or they don't report crime committed by certain groups of people or by illegal immigrants. But you have some cities, I think Los Angeles is an example of that, that, just don't provide their crime statistics to the FBI, and therefore the crime looks less threatening than it really is. And then I'm not sure if it's the Bureau of Labor Statistics or what exactly the right office, but almost every month for the last 2 years, they've been reporting greater job growth. They report job growth is great, and then the next month they revise the previous month's reported job growth. So I think they hit something like 818,000 jobs they said were created that were not really created. And then the last thing I'll say is, again, I read this book, Autocracy by Anne Applebaum, if you can see it. But she made a very interesting point. She said, unbridled lies are meant to underscore the power of the liar. So that's a very profound statement. Unbridled lies are meant to underscore the power of the liar. So if Saddam Hussein or Putin says there's no such thing as the sun, and everybody knows that, yes, there is a sun, S-U-N, but to have the power to cause nobody to try to correct you, nobody to try to take a different position on something like that, that really underscores the power of the liar. And when they tell these lies that we know the price of food is much more expensive than it was 4 years ago, maybe they're at such a high level of lying that they're trying to demonstrate that they can get away with any lies and we can't do anything about it. Anyway, you want to say any final words, John?
Yeah, I was just thinking the really, really big lie is the one that Biden is competent to do his job right now. I mean, we have all these crises around the world in the Middle East and Ukraine, of course, and we have this man there that is suffering from dementia. He should have been removed by now by the 25th Amendment. We need, even if Kamala became president, she at least would have some mental capacity to deal with these things, maybe have some negotiations or make the right decisions. He's just kind of floating around there, and they're saying that he can have this job. At his speech at the UN a couple weeks ago, he said he repeated another lie, that he's leaving office because it's time to move on and we need to protect the democracy, a new generation, and all that stuff. But it really is because he can't do the job. He shouldn't be in the job right now. And it would be frightful to have a president now, but it would be better than this guy who isn't even there. And the Democrats are all telling these lies about it. And of course, that's one of the ones that Kamala told just before Biden quit the race, not the presidency, unfortunately. But she was saying, yeah, he's sharp as a tack, and all the Democrats said he's sharp as a tack. And then he goes and has that debate with Trump, and he's like vegged out, And why is this man still in office? That's just a huge lie right there.
Yeah. Well, I think Biden is doing us a service to some extent. He's very critical of Kamala Harris. He's basically, assigning all of his failures onto her. He said he's, delegated everything to her. She's part of all the decisions. So that's good. And, a couple of weeks ago, he was wearing a MAGA hat. I would.
Yeah, that was funny. Oh, that was funny.
You wouldn't believe me. But yeah, he did have a MAGA hat. He went on to Air Force One with it, at least in his hand, if not on his head. So anyway.
Yeah, that was funny.
Yeah. Well, anyway, John, thank you so much for
Welcome.
speaking to us. You brought out a lot of good points. That brings us to the close. Again, we will send you the interview with Daniel Street. I think you should listen to that. I think you'll like it. But I want to thank everyone for joining us today. It was a long session. It's about 12 hours with the interview that we've already recorded. So it's not easy to dedicate a whole day or a lot of your day to this kind of a program. But we appreciate your being here. We hope to see you at other events. And let's push hard and do what we can to win the elections in a month.
That's for sure. Have a great day, everybody.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.